Hello, welcome to the Innotap booth. My name is Joe McCrory, and I'm going to review the past year and new content that we've added. Just a quick FYI here on the main homepage. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. This is the launch point for Decision Doc, which we'll be reviewing. And then if you want to install PowerFeed for Excel, that's here. Just another couple things to point out here that the contact information, if you ever need help, is here. Obviously, the 1-800 number to get help. We also have a live chat as well as email support. So just a couple things to point out in case you ever need us. So we did add some content this year, each market. So I'm going to walk through that market by market, and we'll take a look at what we've added. So let's start with California, the California market first. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. The first market, or the first thing we added was EIM, hourly base, NSI, and losses. So if you open this guy, and I'll drag them down here so we can see them better as it loads. So you'll see, by default, it looks like it's opening up Arizona. We do have all of the locations here, so you can pick whatever bouncing authority you'd like to look at. And then as far as types, you have the three different types, which are 40, 55, and 75. So different time frame types. This app will give you a graph and a table view, so you can see one of each. By default, it's going to give you a daily, so if you want to go back and look, you can look at the whole day. You can look, in any time frame you want if you want to focus down from there. As far as the icons at the top, they're the standard zoom for the graph, export to Excel, so you can export all the data to Excel to do your own ad hoc analysis for every app. These are on every app. Take a picture of the graph if you'd like to have your own picture of it. Print it. You can print the graph. Mute the controls, so if there's too many alerts going off and too much audio, you can mute it. Here, this would open up a new instance of the app, so you can run as many as you want. So in this one, I have Arizona. If I want to have a separate one for CAISO, I can launch that and have another one running. And then finally, we always encourage you to go in and look at the options. The options are where you set your alerts for the data moves. We're not prescriptive, but we're highly flexible, and we try to allow you to alert on these data moves. Obviously, it's important. You want to be notified as soon as something happens in the marketplace, so you can make an offensive or defensive move depending on your position. So that's EIM, hourly base, NSI, and losses. That's the first app. Let's go through the next one, which is supply and renewables. Let me bring that down here. So here's the supply and renewables. You have by default, you launch in a pie graph mode. So you can see here the different values for each one. The time frame is up here. I should also note that if you hover over, it'll tell you when the last update was. That's on all of our apps as well. So when you hover over the timestamp at the top, it tells you the last update. Some heads up information here, and then your actual values here. So by default, we have the pie charts. You can also look at a graph trend if you want, and then we have the different types. So you can look at supply, renewables, batteries, imports, and total supply. At the bottom here, you'll see the legend and what each line is representing. And again, in table view, you have all the information on the table view if you'd like to look at it that way. So that is the supply and renewables app. And then finally, we've added GenMix. So the GenMix is a lot of like our other GenMixes in our on our other markets. There just wasn't one added here, and now we have one. So you'll see at the bottom, you have renewables, nuclear, thermal. They're rolled up, imports, and hydro. If you want to look at any time slot, you can hover over, and you'll see the actual values. You can actually go into a micro view of the renewable resources and actually see each one here. So it gives you kind of a zoom in look at what's going on in renewables. Again, table graph and the same same icons at the top. So those are the 3 new ads for KISO. Let's move on to ERCOT. Okay, in the ERCOT market. So again, similar to California, we've added a GenMix app. So let me bring that guy down so we can see him. Very similar to what you saw in California. By default, you have 1 day here. You can look at up to 3 days on the graph, on the scaling. If you want to see 1 day and then roll backwards, you can grab the indicator here and move back through time. That's another way to look at it. Again, table and graph views of the data. The nice part about the table is we'll also give you a percentage. So by default, it's going to show you megawatts, but if you want to see the actual percentage of each type, you can hit percentage here and you'll see how much, like in this instance, gas is 50% now ending 1. So just give you some idea of how that data looks and how that table looks. And by default, it's graph. Okay, let's move on to ISO New England. So here's ISO New England. Let's take a look at what we've added here. Stretch this out to make it a little bit bigger for you. So the new app here is Tide Flows. And again, if you've never opened this up, you would have and I'll show you on the next market we look at, but you would have a little new indicator next to it. So by default, you see it's a very much like the rest of our Tide Flow apps on our platform. You can hover over any instance to see an exact value. By default, it has this location. The location picker is here, so if you want to look at others, you can add them. It will show actual and scheduled. If you want to see one versus the other, you can use the radio button, table, again, table view, and graph view. And that's ISO New England. Okay, so on to MISO, and I just want to point this out. So in MISO here, I have a 2 indicator, meaning there's 2 apps that are new that I have never launched yet. So you'll see that change when I look at this. Only one of these is new for this year. One I just haven't opened. So the new one for this year is the multi-day operating margin forecast, or affectionately known as MOM. So this is the MOM app. No, we don't have a dad app. This is the MOM app. And you can see there's a lot of detailed information on here. By default, it rolls up to the RTO, but you can look regionally to each region. These are the resource part of this is the resource part of the report. Here's the uncertainty part, and you can see the summary for each day. There's an outage section of this report, as well as wind hourly. So a lot of different information on this. Could be, and again, the date navigation, because this is more tabular, the date navigation is here, so you can navigate through that way. I know a lot of people look at this report and will actually export this to Excel and take a look at, they use the data and look at it off, at their own ad hoc and add it to their models. So that's one way to look at it. Again, there should be a decent amount of alerts that you can configure here. The alerts on the user-defined alerts will allow you to define your own alert. So you have threshold alerts or percent change moves. You can pick which day, and you can pick which piece of data. So a lot of alerting on it when it comes in to let you know what's happened here. So that's the MOM report. That's the new ad for MISO. And again, if we go back to MISO, which is hiding behind here, you'll see I still have a 1 tick here because I haven't looked at my marginal fuel app. And when I click that, if you watch here, the MISO app will go to a black color from red, meaning that I've opened all the content. So let's move this out of the way, wait till this guy launches, and then the MISO, I opened MOM again. That won't make it go away. Let's try it. And you can see right here the tick is new right there. So now we can look at it, and you'll see it has turned from a red meaning I've looked at all the content and there is nothing new in MISO. So just something else to look at. Okay, so that's MISO. We have added a lot of content in PJM this year. So this will be where most of the content is, and we'll go through these one by one and just take a look at what we have. Ancillary regulation prices, new app. So you can see here some of the different pricing, and down here is the legend. So it's a pricing graph. You can see the different megawatt values and prices. So it's scaled differently on each one with two different types. You have megawatts along with dollars. Again, this is you're able to export this to Excel. If we look at table, there's a lot of information on table as well. You can navigate through the days back and forth at the top here of the table, as well as the graph by default is going to show you 24 hours. You can make that a daily graph, meaning it would just be the day. You could change that to an on-peak view. And then drag backwards. So if I just want to see the on-peak hours for today, and I want to go back yesterday and only see on-peak, it'll scale for that. So that's the different scaling. And we have the three presets would be 24-hour view, which is the default. You can go to 4-hour view, or you can go to an on-peak view. So these are the quick moves as far as scaling goes. So that's the first app, ancillary pricing. The next app is LPC, RT Sched, and IT Sched biased. So again, here's the data at the bottom. Here's the three data pieces that are labeled up top here. Again, default is 4 hours on this. This appears to be 5-minute data. Table and graph view. Take a look at table, take a look at graph. Same navigation where you use the top date to navigate through the table. At the bottom, you can use here the scale if you want to see a little larger scale, and you can drag the graph backwards in time. And again, this is the same icons at the top, nothing different there. Zonal temperature, we can never have enough weather, so we added zonal temperature. Here's the new app. This I believe this comes directly from PJM. Now, keep in mind we do have weather built into our app. So if I, for a minute, we'll close this guy, and I'll just point that out that we do have weather. We have two sources. That's another new add of this year. We've always had NOAA, and we now have open weather. So our goal is to get 3 weather sources, just in case one goes off the reservation, so maybe you want to trend with the 2 that seem closer together. That's just a thing that we've had suggestions for, and I think it makes sense. So look for that next year on the roadmap. We'll be adding another weather service. So lots of weather, which is great. I'm sure you subscribe to weather services, but it never hurts to look at other weather. So again, this is just another weather ad, but this is what PJM's using to do some of their forecasting. So they base some of their load forecasting on this weather. So you can see the real time and day ahead. You can move back and forth. And again, all this data is exportable, so if you want to use that. But this is interesting stuff because in the day ahead, it'll help you determine, like, well, how did they come up with some of the, the pricing and the clears and their load forecast. So just to give you an idea how that works. That's the zonal weather for PJM. Let's go back to PJM. We'll open this back up again, and there's another new guy here. It's called, where is this guy? Sorry, I'm trying to find it. I got the older eyes going here. State net interchange. So this is kind of an interesting map where it actually shows you net interchange between the different states within PJM. So kind of a cool way of seeing which way megawatts are moving around. You can see focus state by state and see which way they're moving. So, Pennsylvania, if you double click, it's kind of cool because you can actually see it'll open up a mini graph of that state and show you kind of the megawatt movement within that state. So kind of nice, you know, you can just double click and take a look there as well. You can see that tooltip is down here. Again, data is exportable to Excel if you want to look at it in a different method, but this is probably the best method to look at this when you're talking state to state, similar to what PJM has. But again, if we have something that PJM has, you know, I'll take the Pepsi challenge any time that we're going to be faster than them. So you'll get the data faster with us. Their web apps do not update as fast as our system does. Price heat map. That's another new guy we added this year. I'll bring him down a little bit so we can see him. So this is a nice one. It'll show you kind of give you an idea of, you know, where prices are. It's got some cool features like a playback, so you can play back and watch the different prices change. And then when the map populates, you can see, you know, different nodes and different places. This is, you know, a very large view of pricing. You can use some filtering nodes that might be more interesting or where congestion is. That's probably the best way to filter out. It looks like there's no congestion here, so it's going to be difficult to show any here right now. It does have zoom ability, so you can move in somewhat and take a closer look at some of the nodes. And again, if you hover over, you'll see information. If you click on it, you'll see even more. Good information here. If the map had shown more congestion or more pricing, it would be interesting for me to show you how the filtering works. But you can, you know, actually look through different pricing if you wanted to see, you know, show me a price that's over, you know, between $100 and $300 or something like that. So unfortunately for today, there's not a whole lot going on, so you're not going to get a whole lot of look here. But it's nice. It's nice to see this, and it helps you visualize the pockets of congestion within PJM. So that's another nice add. So total generation and EHV losses, another new guy. And I'm kind of going chronologically how we added these apps. So not a lot going on this graph today. If we draw it back to yesterday, let's take a look here. You can see as we march through, you can see some of the information. Now, a lot of this data, especially on the gen side of this, does lag behind the current day. It's still good to look at this trending, just to give you an idea of what's going on. They don't put this out in real time, probably for security purposes, and you know, generators don't want some folks to know this kind of information in real time. So that does lag a little bit behind the current day, but it is still good information to take a look at, even if you're going back and looking at yesterday and seeing how that worked. Again, you have generation megawatts on this side and EHV losses over here. Table view of the same data. If you step through the days, you'll see more of it. So, you know, as we go back, you'll see more. So another good one, total gen and EHV losses. That's another new one. Reactive transfer limits and peak forecast. So we'll go here with this guy. This is a nice little small app. I like its size, and it's just a nice nice one. Doesn't take up a lot of space on your desktop. It'll give you regionally the different regions of PJM, where the peak forecast is, and you know, what the value is. So which hour is going to be the peak forecast, and then the actual value. So again, you can walk through time, you know, go back and forth and take a look at this data. The published time, I think, is daily on this. It looks like it's like around 8 o'clock in the morning. I believe there's one updated day on this data. Let's take a look. Yeah, so you can export that to Excel if you want to take a look at that. That's a nice new app. It doesn't take up a lot of this space on your layout, so it'd be easy to piece that one in. And dispatch reserves is another new one. Let me find that guy. Dispatch reserves is another new one. So this is dispatch reserves, and you can see the different reserve types here. This is for PJM. They have it separated PJM and Mid-Atlantic DOM. So they're basically traditional PJM and then everybody else. Summary table. So it's tabular, or I'm sorry, it's just a table view of it. As long along, that's just a summary. Table will give you more granular view of the actual prints every 5 minutes, and then graph. So by default, it gives you a rolled up summary, but the graph will give you a more detailed view of it. And then you can see which types are selected by default. You can change that and select any type you want. I don't know if we have that in the, take a look here. Yeah, so up here also what you'd like to see, that's one of the options. And again, there's a lot of alerts with this, so you could configure it any way you want. So for some of this data moving in real time, some of this can be important stuff to know. So just another new piece of data. And I believe that's all the content in PJM. And finally, SPP. Take a look here. SPP load by area. This is a new one. And we'll let this guy load. Okay. So as you can see down here, you have your different areas selected here on the graph. One day, this is a 1 day view by default. You can see below the scale. You can see your locations here. By default, we have these 5, but you can add any of the others, as you see fit, whatever you'd like to look at. Again, you can look at anything on here. Date navigation up top, no slider. So that this guy, if you wanted to look at yesterday, just hit the left arrow button or pull the drop down. And again, same view, table view, and graph view. So that is our new ad for SPP. No new content for New York last year. We just didn't find anything interesting. That's the only market where or New England either. There's nothing. Oh no, we did. We did add tie flows for New England. So just New York had nothing new, no new content. So we'll go. I'm going to do this. This is a pre-recorded because I wanted to make sure I caught everything and play this for you. After this, we'll go live and we'll talk about the roadmap for next year, weather being one thing, and then have a discussion. We'll leave it open for you and anything you'd like to see, content that you would like to see that we don't have, or that is somewhere else, and you would like us to add it. We could always have that discussion as well. So thanks for the review, year in review, and again, I'm Joe McCrory. Let's go live, and then we'll talk about the roadmap for this year.